even wonder how to turn trash in treasure. In this video, I will show you how to learn basic electronics using some old circuit boards salvaged from the trash. Stick around, it's going to be fun and educational. Hey here, I'm Richard, and today we're diving into the world of electronics by taking apart some old boards. Whether you are here to learn or just some entertainment, let's get started. We know the board, we'll learn its basic functions, recognize components, and start developing soldering skill. Besides learning and practicing, I will get my first electronics components for future projects. At the end of the video, I will show the results of this work. We will use a soldering iron, a solder sucker, some soldering flux paste, and solder wire. Scan from an old EPS. Take apart circuit boards, help practice using a solder iron, and get familiar with boards and components. For beginners, it's a chance to know the components and understand how they work in the equipment. I will learn electronics and have two challenges: learning electronics to share with you and speak English. As you may have noticed, if you having trouble understanding me, please turn on subtitles in your language. This units keep a computer running during power outages, giving time to save work and shut down safely. This board worked a switch power supply to recharge the battery and a square wave inverter to power the computer. Why square wave and not a sine wave? Because the computer's power supply rectifies and converts it to DC. If this video is tickling your fancy, however media I'm using, why not smash that subscribe button and toss a like my way. These heavy parts like the LED battery and transformers stayed in the case. These components are original and the right quality, make them worth using. I have a variety of components here: resistor, a power switch, a capacitor, a buzzer, diodes, transistor. There's two MOSFETs here. The control is on the small board with integrated circuits. Here are two polyester capacitors. Are you really interested in these 512 volts relays? They will be useful for projects I have in mind. We also have these 4 power MOSFETs, but has broken terminals, so we use only 3. First, I'll separate this board. It is held by these solder points. I'll try to be as not destructive as possible. The goal is to learn to solder components without destroying them or the board, but I think I may need some brute force here. First, remove the screw, now at the solder, and use the solder sucker. This is my first experience with a solder iron. The old solder is very hard and not melting. I will add some new solder to make it easy to melt. After the solder the terminals, I need to strand them with a plier to remove them. A screwdriver to loosen a power switch. I ended up breaking a piece of the board. We are using scrapped equipment, so it's okay. But I'll continue the assembly, try to not damage it more. It's a way to learn to desolder components. Apply the soldering iron here, place on the terminals, the screwdriver. Hey, finally loose! These parts with the outlets will be used in another project. Now, remove the small capacitor. Hit the terminals with the iron, hold with pliers to avoid burns. Done. Parts of the learning is to synchronize the solder sucker with the solder iron. Watch when the solder becomes liquid by its shine and use the sucker. This way, you remove solder points. The alloy used in production boards is harder. To make it easy to melt, I add some new solder. After removing the solder, you need to strand the terminals. In the factory, components are replaced and the terminals twisted to hold them in place. Quickly, the tip of the solder sucker got clogged with all the solder. This board with yellow edges are made of phenolic, basically cardboard soldered in resin. The solder iron shouldn't stay too long in contact to avoid burning the board or the tracks. As parts heat up quickly, I'm using pliers to hold them. Be careful, Hitchner. Do not damage the component. If nafts burn its component, it's important to remove it undamaged to identify it precisely for replacement. These are the result of the beginnings of the work: a capacitor, some MOSFET, and the transistor. This board is on the way. I try cutting the terminals with pliers. The pliers are too big. The MOSFETs were screwed to the heatsinks. This is the first time I'm doing this, and I learn a lot. The screws are very tiny. I unscrew the MOSFET from the heatsink before the soldering. If I were doing maintenance, this should be the procedure, leaving the heatsink fixed to the board. Be careful, if the screwdriver slips, I can hurt my hands. This reminding me I need to buy gloves to these tasks. Now I will try a different approach. I will apply some flux paste to see if the solder melts easier. Seems like it doesn't make a difference. Affect the relays would be hard to remove, but just remove the solder and they come out easily. Their terminal aren't to stay in place, but other components aren't easy to remove. After some time removing solder points, it's time to remove the components from the board. I need to strand the terminals. I use a screwdriver. Some need to pull it with pliers. I pull by the terminals, not the components, to avoid damage. This isn't a correct way to handle electronics components, but we're learning. Now I'll remove the small logic board. If I were repairing the board, I'd have to desolder those tons of the terminals. But I don't want to take learning that seriously. I use wire cutter to put it off. There are some components underneath. Now the board is empty. Some resistors are left, but I think this is enough for me. This is the result of the work. The rest I put in this plastic container. Here they are. Now I have my first relays, transistor, MOSFETs, capacitor, diodes, and power resistor for my project, along with a buzzer and two color LED. Learning electronics isn't endless challenging, but each step brings new rewards and technological possibilities. Keep learning with me. Watch the video on the screen now.